to your Voice in Power Hour on the My Voice in Power show for Unity Live Radio.
Hello and welcome to the Your Voice in Power Hour on the My Voice in Power radio show. How are you today?
I'm very well and delighted to join you.
Thank you very much. Can you tell us your name and a bit about yourself?
Okay, my name is Deborah Baldry. Most people know me as Debor. And I am a 58-year-old mum, grandmum,
Really?
yeah, and founder of Reading Kindness Rocks, which is what I think we're going to be talking about today.
It is lovely. You look fantastic for your age.
Thank you.
So you gave me a bit of background information before we met today.
Mhm.
That you got the idea from when you went on holiday in Florida. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. So unfortunately at the time, my father was recovering from chemotherapy. He's lived in Florida for 20, 30 years. And on this particular day in January, it was quite chilly. So we decided to go out to one of the natural spring state parks because in the cold weather in Florida, you quite often get manatees go up into the natural springs. So we got there and it was, I think on the day, it was the highest number of manatees that they were going to have in the spring. So it was like, oh, this is going to be amazing, which it was. But during the walk up the springs, there's like it's a state park. So there's like a dedicated pathway and then you have observation points. So it's like a little jetty that looks out over to the natural spring. And that was where we found our first kindness rocks. I'd heard of the concept, but didn't know as much about it. But what I did know is you can keep them. If you find a painted rock and it is kindness rock, you are normally more than welcome to keep it with the artist's love.
Okay.
So came back, looked up the group, which was Volusia County Kindness Rocks, and then read up and found out about the whole concept, which was started by Megan Murphy in Cape Cod in America, and decided I like this idea. My dad was always very big on kindness. Before pay it forward was a big thing.
Yeah.
He would, if he were in the supermarket with him and he saw a young mum in front of him or whatever, looking like she was struggling with the shopping or anything like that, he'd offer to pack it for her and then pay for it. So he would always do nice things like that. So yeah, brought the rock back and then founded Reading Kindness Rocks.
So what did your rock have on it? And you found it?
It was a callia lily, which I love. It's one of my favorite flowers. I included them in our wedding bouquet when I married my husband in Florida. So yeah, it just ticked all the boxes. It really, I mean, on that day, we did then find some other rocks. I think there was a strawberry one or whatever, but it was this callia lily one, which I've sent to you, I think, on a photograph. So you've got that. And yeah, it's my first rock. You always remember your first rock that you find, and I've kept it, and it's a treasured memento. Because since then, I have actually lost my father to lymphoma. So it's even more special. I think now I think of Reading Kindness Rocks as part of his legacy with me, because I would never have started it had I not been with him that day.
Yeah. I'm sorry to hear about that. But
That's okay.
what you're doing, yeah, it's amazing. So when you came back then you started it here. How did you manage to get that all started?
Initially, just obviously set up a holding page, Facebook holding page, looked at what materials were the most commonly used in rock painting, went off down to Hobbycraft and sort of filled a basket with goodies. And that was when I got talking to the then manager of Hobbycraft, who she said, she was just interacting with the customers. Oh, what have you got here? And I explained. So I came home. I've got 3 grown-up sons, and some of them have got children, and they've all got partners. And this one particular day, they were all coming round for Sunday lunch. I laid everything out on the table, and I said, right, nobody's eating until you paint me some rocks. That was their big incentive.
Yeah.
And also, I think it was around the time of the Winter Olympics as well. So they did some Olympic-themed rocks, got them all varnished, and then started leaving them about. And then friends that I invited to the group, and I said, look, please invite as many people as you can. This is a fantastic concept, and it's a great hobby, and things like that. And it just grew and grew and grew. So we went from sort of 0 to over 1,000 pretty quickly. And then now it'll be 5 years in February. We're already at 4,500 people, and quite a lot of them are active.
That's amazing.
And they're all over the world. Majority are obviously local, but as the rocks travel, we pick up new members. There is a place, because we're obviously Reading, there is a place in Pennsylvania called Reading. So accidentally, we've picked up a few people from Pennsylvania, and when I see where they're from, I say, oh, we're Reading in the UK. And they're like, oh no, I like the concept, I'll stay with you.
Oh, that's nice.
Acrylic paint or acrylic paint pens, which you can get. There's generic ones. The branded ones that are the most popular are a brand called Posca. Not cheap by any means, but they do last quite a long time, and that's actually the pens we use in our free workshops. So for a number of years, Posca through Hobbycraft were sponsoring us, so they would provide us with a lot of the pens. Again, their area manager just loved the concept of Kindness Rocks. So over the 4 years that we were running the workshops, we've had to buy very little. I think this year was the first year I sort of had to buy some pens, but we had funds available that we've been awarded as being a community project. And then varnishing wise, in our workshops, we use a decoupage varnish, which is just a paint-on varnish, no smells, so there's no vapors or anything like that, and it dries really quickly. So we can varnish the rocks and give them back to the artists, within minutes. At home, sometimes, depending on what rocks I'm doing, I may use spray varnish, which is a bit more expensive. It stinks, you've got to do it outside. And then I do know some people that just sort of get a pot of yacht varnish or whatever from the pound shop and just use that. But again, that'll take a while to dry, and it does give off some vapors. So it's not necessarily something you can do indoors.
Yeah. Wow. So I've also seen that you do lots of work and raise lots of funds for charities.
We do. One of the biggest ones that we work with locally is Sue Ryder, which offer hospice care at home. They've got their own hospices, and they've got their own sort of end-of-life nurses and palliative care nurses. So at our very, very first workshop that we did back in April 2018, I met a lady that worked for Sue Ryder, and she said, oh, it'd be nice if we could do some painted rocks for, I think it was like an upcoming fete later on in the summer. I said, yeah, I'll rally around as many people. But before that fete, what ended up happening were people were donating rocks. They were being put in a basket at the main hospice in Reading that they run. And it was just like a little sign that says, please take one with our love, but it'd be nice if you could give a minimum donation of £2. And that's what started the sort of charity side of it. We've also got some really fantastic artists within the group. And what I didn't want was them being pressurized into painting a rock as like a commission for somebody. So what I said was, instead of, if people ask you and you really don't want to get into that, then any rock that you are happy to donate, we will then run a charity auction for it. So we, as I say, we've done for Sue Ryder, we've done national charities, so like Dementia UK, Mind, Terence Higgins Trust. There's been lots of different charities that we've raised money for. We've also done auctions where it's artist's own choice. So we will put up pictures of the rocks, people bid, and then the money raised from that rock goes to the artist who donated it, their preferred charity, or community group.
Yeah. Wow, this is amazing. So can anyone get in touch with you to get you to raise money for charity for?
Yeah, we actually did. I did a poll probably in early October where I said, which charities would you like to raise money for? And Sue Ryder came out as top, which is why our current auction at the moment is to raise money for Sue Ryder, and that finishes, I think, on the 6th of November.
Okay.
And then going into, well, now we're into November. Gosh, where is the year going to? November is Gastric Cancer Awareness Month.
Yeah.
And earlier this year, I had the misfortune of being in hospital. I met a lovely young lady, recently married, 3 children. And during the 5-6 days we were together in the hospital, they kept giving her scans, giving her tests, and they were like, oh no, don't worry, it's not cancer, it's not cancer, it's not cancer. And then the day after I left, she texted me in the morning. She said, oh, the specialist has been round, they've reviewed the CT, and it's definitely not cancer. So I'm like, oh, that's amazing news, well done, I'm so happy. Have they told you what it is, what's causing all these problems? No, but I'm going to see a different doctor later. And then a few hours later, they asked her when her husband was coming in. When he came in, they took them to a side room, and she was told she had stage 4 terminal stomach cancer.
Wow.
She's only 34.
Oh no.
Now, during this time in hospital, as sometimes you do, you overshare information and you get to know people. It's like being on holiday in a way. You get to know people really quickly. And we had a lot of people in common that we both knew. And she's 34, I'm 58, but she kept telling me I reminded of her grandmother, and I'm like, we're going to fall out quick. I'm not that old, but it was all in good spirit. And then we couldn't work out why we hadn't connected before, or why we've been brought together now. And then after this diagnosis, I said, right, because I give kindness angels out to everybody, and I'd given her some kindness angels, and she was leaving them around different wards because her mum was in hospital at the time. And then it was a few days after she'd got the diagnosis, and I just realized, well, if I can do anything at all, painted rocks,
Yeah.
why don't we? I set up a Facebook group for her, and we called it Shown Us Stones.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in June. I think there's 1,500 people in that group now.
Wow.
And we are trying to raise awareness for gastric cancer through the painted stones. And her friends, collectively known as Shown As Angels, are hopefully going to be doing an awareness walk in one of the big parks locally on the 19th of November. So we're going to try and get involved in leaving rocks or stones all around the park.
Okay.
Maybe have some balloons. I think there's a local business that may be sponsoring them as well,
Okay.
to raise awareness for that.
So, like you mentioned mind as well there, and I'm big on mental health. Like that's just my thing. And I was going to ask. I normally ask, what do you do like for your mental health? But it seems like this in
Kindness
itself,
rocks.
yeah, is enough.
Literally, it's been my saviour
Mm-hmm.
on some of the dark days, especially as most people, I really did struggle with the lockdown. Not just the fact of not seeing family, like my children and my grandchildren, but also that, my dad, as I say, was terminally ill in 2020. In the past, any time that there'd been an illness with him, I'd get a call at 10 o'clock on a Thursday night saying he wasn't very well, and I'd be up at Heathrow or Gatwick on Friday morning catching a flight out there. So it really, really did hit me very hard that I couldn't be with my dad when he needed me. And so, yeah, rock painting saved my sanity on more than one occasion. And what's been lovely is the feedback from others. We've got a couple of members that, they have openly said it within the group, but privately they've said, they've had some suicidal thoughts. But then to take their mind off of it, they've started painting rocks, and they've gone for the more intricate designs, that they've got to concentrate on a rock, and that has helped them.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's all I can ever ask for. I know it personally, it saved my life, I think, and my sanity, and I know from feedback from others that it's done the same for them.
Amazing. Amazing. I'm glad you touched upon that, because obviously November as well was Men's Mental Health Month. So I've like focused a lot on that, because I feel like it's just as important to try to give them support as well as, well, female, just everybody just needs it.
Everybody, no, everybody needs it, but I think there is an issue with young men and suicide. It's just, I think girls are probably, or women are more used to talking to each other, and if you're having a bad day, you can sort of have a chat. And
Yeah.
in the past, men haven't always done that.
Yeah.
So the making, having awareness, talking about it. We've got a lot of men within the group, and we've got some very active guys that do it. One actually does help us a lot in our workshops as well. So it's something that anybody and everybody can do. You don't need to have any artistic skills. You can write on a rock, just some kind word. And that's how Kindness Rock started. It wasn't with fabulous paintings and drawings on them. It was actually kind words written on a rock that were left on a beach for somebody to find.
Yeah,
And
because you sent me the link for the website, so I went on
yes,
there before this interview, and I watched the short video on the website of her story. And as you were speaking about your dad, I was thinking how like similar your stories are, because Megan herself lost her parents, and that's what led her to start this. And you didn't know anything about her before, so
no,
for you to be doing the same thing and your stories to be similar,
so similar. Yeah,
yeah, it's amazing. Like,
it is, it certainly is. But as I say, to me, the same as, I mean, obviously she's taken it global.
yeah,
And Megan now does public speaking and corporate speaking, and there's a big movement to bringing kindness into the workplace as well, which the company I work for are very good on advocacy for mental health and kindness. And actually, part of my title now is I am the kindness advocate for the company.
that's cool.
So it's just, I couldn't ask for more.
Yeah,
I'm bringing my passion of kindness into the work environment. And we've done things like we do a monthly draw where we randomly pick a member of staff's name, and they will choose a charity or a community group to donate some money to. So we do that every month, and some other things. I'm trying to get them into the rock painting, but they're a bit too far away for the head office. But don't worry, I'll get them there.
wow, that's amazing. So, have you met Megan?
No, I haven't. We are connected on Facebook and on the professional site LinkedIn. And I recently put up a thank you post, and I mentioned her for starting the concept in the first place, and to also credit the lady Ella Hedges, who used to be the regional manager for Hobbycraft, and she was the one that's helped us set up the free workshops there back in 2018. She's now moved on, and obviously, as all businesses are sort of finding it difficult at the moment,
Yeah,
and we had to give up our free space that we had within Hobbycraft recently. And I thought, it was the end of my world, or the end of an era, so to speak,
yeah,
because I thought, well, these free workshops are giving families a chance to do a totally free activity. We provide everything, the rocks, the paint pens, the varnish, so that they can come along, spend a couple of hours doing the painting, creating some rocks, chatting to other people, and then go away. And as I say, that finished at the beginning of October, and I was, I just felt so empty, because a big part of the group has been hosting these workshops.
yeah.
And I'm glad to report that a very large global company now supports us.
Oh,
And we've set up a workshop area in our local IKEA store from early Monday evening. What's even better, and we found out the week before Halloween, that half term week, we had a lot of families come, and that particular company offer very, very good child meal deals. So literally, there was a lady there who had 3 children. She could, I think the meals were £1.50 and included a meal, a drink, and a piece of fruit.
Really, that's really good.
And then she was sat there for 2 hours, and she, and knowing that, when you hear all these people saying about electricity bills and heating bills, if there's somewhere warm, dry, that they can get a cheap meal that's nutritious and paint some rocks, it just ticks so many boxes for me.
Wow.
So yes, getting back to
Yeah.
it was a LinkedIn post, and I obviously thanked Megan, and Megan said, oh, I'd love to come along one day. You've got an open invite if you're ever in the UK. I know she's traveling. I think she might be traveling to Africa this week. She's doing some talks over there.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm like lost for words, because like this date, like, and you're answering everything without even me having to really ask anything. But
I'm
yeah,
sorry, I'm a bit of a chatterbox once
no,
you
I
get
like
me
it.
going.
No, I like it. It helps to keep the chat and the show in.
You'll be editing it all down.
No, it's fine. I like these ones when the conversation flows. Not that I'm very flowy today, but yeah, no, I like it. It's good. So, what time are your workshops on Monday?
On a Monday, it's 5 till 7.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of a nice time for people to come along, grab something to eat, and as I say, paint some rocks. And that's, I think we're now going to be in our 3rd week coming up. We've done 3. It'll be for our 4th week on Monday. So what we do is, within the group, I create it as an event, because obviously, we can't have 50 people turning up and taking over the whole restaurant area. So the local store, their marketing manager has set up a table that holds, I think it's 12 people. And what we did that half-term week was, I didn't want to deny anybody coming along. So what we said is, look, come along, if you can see other people waiting to join us, paint a couple of rocks and grab a drink, and sit at a different table and let them jump in, and let's just rotate it. And that was what happened. And I did actually put a thank you post up, because people were so good. We don't allow children to be there on their own. The parents or carers have got to be with them. And what I said was, if for whatever reason they didn't want to paint a rock, they stay with their children, but give up a seat and just stand behind their children. And that's exactly what happened. So it was lovely.
This is amazing.
Wow. So anybody wanting to join, if they go to our Facebook group, look at the events, they can click and add themselves in. And I normally post events for sort of the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Obviously, I know this particular store gets busy around Christmas and when they have their sales, so we might suspend the workshops on those days, because nobody wants to get stuck in a car park for hours, so I won't encourage that.
What do you do when you're not working and running these workshops?
So my day job, I'm an executive assistant for a managing director. Other than rock painting, actually, my husband thinks I rock paint all the time. He said there's not a room in the house that hasn't got rocks or pens or anything in them. And I said, well, yeah, but I need to wash them, I need to dry them, and I need to varnish them. We've got some dogs, so we really like going out with our dogs. We've got 2 very large puppies. They're Landseer Newfoundlands, and we've got a British Bulldog, is the one you can probably hear truffling away next to me, because he wants to come up and sit on my lap. And yeah, just general stuff with our children, our grandchildren. So we've got 3 grandchildren, another one on the way.
Lovely,
They're
congratulations.
always good fun. So it was a lovely weekend, obviously, with Halloween just gone as well.
Yeah.
And we managed to trick the 2 older grandchildren with look for a hair on a plate.
What? What's that about?
You get a plate of water and you ask them to look for a hair on the plate. So they're like looking intently. And then just when they think it's safe, you just slap your hand down and all the water splashes up and gets them. We'll only manage to do it once. They'll remember, but it was good fun.
Yeah. Lovely.
So yeah, I'm a bit of a silly nana, and we'll do things like that.
No,
I even instigated a food fight a little while ago, which hubby wasn't that pleased with, but
yeah, live in the moment, live a little, let your hair down, do stuff.
This
Like,
is it.
you know, my children always lecture me, Mum, you're 41 years old, don't do that. And I'm like, why not? It's, you know, they want me to have fun.
As long
Do
as
you
it doesn't
do it?
hurt somebody else, just do what makes your soul shine.
Yes, I like that. I like that. But yeah, I like the sound of these rocks as well. I think I'm gonna actually have a go at rock painting. I found a neon coloured rock painting kit, so I think I might treat myself.
Definitely. Yeah, a lot of the shops now will sell a box that has everything you need, probably apart from the varnish. The only no that we've got with rocks and rock painting is don't put anything like stick anything on it. You know, like some of the kits have like little stick on eyes or sequins or things like that. And if you're going to keep the rock in your house, that's absolutely fine. But if you're going to put it out in the big wide world, don't have any glitter or anything stuck on it that wildlife can get to.
Okay.
And glitter especially is lethal to wildlife. So yeah, that's the only sort of thing we do sort of say to people. If you're going to put anything on it embellishment wise, then keep it indoors.
Lovely. Okay. So do you have 4 favourite songs?
Build Me Up Buttercup, Foundation, Band of Gold, Frida Payne. I beg your pardon. I never promised you a rose garden. Oh, hang on. No, Lynn Anderson. Sorry, hubby sat next. And Wind Beneath My Wings is Bette Midler, Beaches.
Well, you're doing amazing work.
Thank you. And thank you for inviting me on your show.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
All right, take care.
If you would like your voice to be heard on the Your Voice in Power Hour, then why not get in touch with me at myvoiceinpower@outlook.com.